Resident Evil 4. Can I tell you my one big gripe with this game? When you hit start, it doesn't go Resident Evil. You know, missed opportunity. Absolute missed opportunity. It does it in 2 and 3 remake. I don't know why they omitted it here, but just going to say, Capcom losing their touch.
Yeah, they are.
But not when it comes to the actual game, because this game fucking rules. Oh my God.
I'm very excited to hear your thoughts, because I know when we touched on it in the past, you've said you've played Resident Evil 4, but you sort of just bounced off.
I mean,
I've only played it once myself, a lifetime ago on the Wii, and I've always loved it, but never...
On the Wii?
Yeah.
Apparently that's a very good version.
On the Wii as God intended, with the Wiimote aiming.
With motion controls.
This game's very good. It's like, I think Capcom have hit their stride. They know what they're doing with their remakes, where it toes this fine line of... It's the exact same game you know and love, but with some modern refinements and enhancements and some neat little surprises and twists. And man, Resident Evil 4 was good in 2005, I think, when it came out. And it's just as good in 2023.
Yep. I absolutely agree. I mean, like you said, I played the original briefly. Back in the day, bought it on PC, never knowing that PC was very well known to be a truly legendary, horrible port.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I would argue that today the PC is one of the better places to play the original, because you get access to that pretty extensive HD mod, and it looks pretty fantastic. I just think going back to the OG one, the controls are still, even though at the time it was like this game revolutionized shooters because of the whole over-the-shoulder approach, and that, you know, that's why Resident Evil 4 is so well regarded, is because it was a genre shifting thing, not just for Resident Evil, but for shooters, third-person shooters in general.
Yeah.
And I think if you go back to the original, you don't really see that anymore, because shooters have progressed beyond that now.
Yeah.
But this remake kind of, I wouldn't say recaptures this, but it makes the original feel like the groundbreaking shooter it always was, just by making it feel super modern. I really, really like it. I don't have really any sort of idea what has been changed from a narrative and structure perspective, because I don't have that context. But in terms of the structure that is here, I think it's really, really good. I'm not a huge fan of the chapter approach, because it feels like it breaks up
I love
the
it.
action. I mean, it's
just
cool that you
retro,
get to see it. Yeah, it is a very retro thing. It's like very, it's how the original was.
Yeah.
I guess I'm coming at it from a RE2 perspective, where I really like the cohesive, no cuts sort of thing. But I don't think that actually works in the context of how Resident Evil 4 plays out. So, which is far more linear.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, they could have dropped the cut, the loading screens between chapters, and just had it as a linear thing, because ultimately you get to the end of a chapter, it's a cutscene, it says, hey, you finish a chapter, and then the next chapter just starts with a cutscene. I mean,
that's true.
They could have dropped it, but I don't know. I've quite enjoyed how it's broken up purely from my life point of view. Of every evening, I'm like, yeah, I can get a chapter or two in, and I never stop halfway through a chapter. I'm like, no, I'm going to finish a chapter, because they're about like an hour long. Let's say 45 minutes to just over an hour, depending on what's going on in the chapter, and they are this beautiful balance of, hey, it's RE4 signature action with stupid, ridiculous Resident Evil 4 puzzles, but they're super simplistic in this game, in the sense it's like literally, oh, you need, I don't know, 3 medallions, go collect 3 medallions and come back and put them in. It's like very, very straightforward. And there are some light puzzles, but there shouldn't be anything that'll break your brain, unless you haven't come across this. There's one puzzle I know, it's a meme at this stage. It's like the 3 medallions, where you either solve it in 2 turns, or it's infinite. You can never solve it. You mess it up.
Oh. Is it one of those like where you spinning dials?
Yeah, it's a completely optional treasure one, but it's hilarious how it's become a meme. I don't know if that's from the original, if it's new to the remake, but people going like, I I spent hours on this thing. I couldn't solve it. And then people like me, like, I turned 3 things and it just worked. I was lucky. Yeah. No, go for it.
What are pieces of this that you, I mean, I know for a fact things like the knife, that's completely new in this game. So, I mean, I know from the original, you often had to ready your knife and swipe at a box to break the box. I'm very glad that that's been changed to a button propped. Geez, that is so much nicer. But the knife is still there. The knife is still pretty important. Like, you can use it in combat. But I think now what I really like is they've given you the ability to use your knife to parry attacks. To the point where you can parry a chainsaw with your knife, which is,
of course, Leon's very well
incredible.
Trained. I don't know which training course he did that taught him that skill, but man, he's Archer.
Sure. He's out there at boot camp, and they're like, maybe one day you will encounter an enemy with a chainsaw. Here is how to get past
with a knife. Yeah,
it's great. I like the durability system on the knife, so you can't, it is a thing which makes you feel powerful if used correctly. Like, parrying is still a very active thing. You have to be like careful with timing and whatever. But also you've got to be mindful of like, hey, if I get grabbed and I stab someone, that costs durability. Or if I stab someone on the floor so they don't turn into one of those creatures with the tentacles, that takes durability as well. Parrying takes durability. So I do like the push and pull of like having to constantly repair my combat knife or keep spare knives around. And I never feel like I can just parry everything in sight, because there's just, parrying is almost like a last resort type of thing where it's like, I don't want to take damage. I will take damage here if I don't parry.
Yeah.
So you're not going out there like a Sekiro waiting for people to attack so you can parry them. That's super not the idea here.
Although I do think the parry window is like very generous in this game.
Extremely. Like, yeah.
Even in the tutorial, it's like there will be a prompt in the bottom right that shows you, when the window is to parry. But even if you push the parry a bit early, like, it'll still sometimes trigger. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's very generous of you.
And with bosses, it's obscenely generous.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it warns you, it puts the prompt up on the screen to be like almost like a QTE, you know what I mean?
I think that's not parrying specifically, but I think that's something straight from the original as well, where Leon is this acrobatic dude who every now and then you'll get a prompt to do something. You're like, oh, okay.
Like a dodge or
I think specifically in boss fights, there are moments, if I recall, that he can dodge or duck or whatever. But yeah, they've definitely given him more movement in this game. Like, even subtle things that you might not realize, like the fact that you can aim and shoot, you can move while you aim, is one of those age-old Resident Evil things where fans are like, why can't I do this? Why would you stand still, not move?
Yeah.
And now they've put it in, and some fans are like, it's a bit weird that you can move and aim. Like, what do you guys want? Like, come on. But yeah, there are modern touches like that. And I mean, if you're watching the footage now, like you just saw, Leon can crouch, which is like,
yes, yeah.
Why has this never been a thing in any Resident Evil game?
There's like actual stealth elements now. You can crouch and do stealth kills on enemies, which is really cool. Again, durability. So can't do that. You kind of can't do that forever anyway. It's not really designed for you to do it forever. Are you seriously going to shoot this guy instead of crouch? Okay.
No, but you know what gun I'm using? I'm using the
bolt gun. Yeah,
the bolt gun.
So
you
can reclaim.
You can just reclaim those bolts. I'm busy testing it out here. Look at this. This dude doesn't know what's going on here.
I literally use the bolt gun just with the mines on bosses. I just shove mines into bosses. It's great.
I'll definitely replay this game and try this weapon, like from scratch. Because I kind of used it as like, that's cool, and then move back to all my other stuff. But anyway.
I do like that it is designed in a way that allows you to do that, where like if you buy a weapon and pummel like a bunch of money into upgrading it, and then you realize like, kind of want to try something else, like when you sell it back, you're pretty much getting almost everything back that you spent on it. So it's nice that it lets you experiment in that way.
Definitely.
It's just a good game. I think, they give Leon all these movement abilities, but he still feels kind of odd to move around in a in an apt way, because you don't want Leon to be like feeling like he can get out of any situation. You want some weight to him still.
Yeah.
That still makes him feel very vulnerable. It reminds me a lot of like, Dead Space is directly influenced by RE4, but it feels the same. You feel heavy and lumbering. So I don't think they've shifted the balance of power where Leon feels like an action hero and he's killing everything. Like that was there in the original. It is much more of an action game, but you're still under threat. This isn't an easy game.
Yeah,
by any stretch.
I was gonna say if you have no like affinity, oh my god, what a parry! Oh, another good
incredible
parry.
second
three
one,
in a row.
Third one.
If
Leon's just like, let me get my crossbow out. God damn it!
If you coming in from like you know, quote unquote new to Resident Evil, the franchise, you've played Remake 2, Remake 3, you've played 7 and 8, you go, oh my god, like I need more of this. I'm gonna jump to 4, and you go, you realize 4 is actually, if you've played Village and 4 are very similar. Like Village is definitely a spiritual successor to 4. It's definitely more action heavy, but the horror comes in the form of you have to figure out how to survive like what seem like overwhelming odds. You walk into a room and then there's not like one zombie or two zombies walking at you. It's like 8 angry villagers holding pitchforks, and you go, oh my god, like how am I going to get out of this? So yeah, definitely more of an action focus, but I love it. I think it's such a cool blend of, like you said, it innovated back in 2005 with the over-the-shoulder perspective. But that thing of almost going, oh my God, like there's an enemy with a tentacle coming out of his head and there's a normal enemy, and let me switch to my pistol, and then, okay, do a shot here, switch to my shotgun because there's now 4 of them on top of me, switch to a grenade.
Yeah.
Like that quick thinking balancing act is like why this game is so satisfying. And also add to the fact that, if I recall, this is the first game that added the ability to, like, you know, shoot an enemy in the head, then walk up and roundhouse kick them, which seems so, it seems so out of place in what was a survival horror franchise.
Or go behind them and suplex them.
Yeah, or suplex him. But now it's such a normal feature. Well, it was a normal feature from, you know, those games forward, and use it to your advantage of, okay, there's a crowd around me. If I shoot an enemy in the leg, they'll fall, and then I can make some space by going up to them and hitting them. You know, it'll sweep the other enemies away.
Exactly. Yeah, you almost use your melee as like a crowd control mechanic. It's really clever. I fully agree with you. It's the like symphony of changing your weapons and overcoming these overwhelming odds that are thrown at you very, very consistently.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, if you've just played something like RE Remake 2, the tension there comes from you can die very quickly. Everyone can kill you, and enemies can come back to life at any point. And you're walking through this like maze-like structure with this like invincible thing hunting you as well. So there's far more terror in that, as opposed to like you are fighting multiple enemies at once. So they're different games in that sense.
Yeah.
And you know, I love RE2 a lot for many reasons. I think exploring that space and that constant tension because of Mr. X is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I love this too for an entirely different reason. It's not scary. I don't find RE4 scary at all.
It's more just
it's tense.
Yeah.
It's very tense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even...
And I like it a lot.
Yeah. Even like... I suppose we could touch on the visuals, like the game, like beautiful.
Oh yeah, stunning.
Like I'm actually, I definitely want to revisit the original at some stage, but I'm like, oh man, after playing this and how it looks, they've definitely...
The original's going to look so weird.
Oh no, it's going to look almost bland in comparison. Well, it definitely will. But just how they've tried to set the tone. Like if you're watching the footage now, I'm playing, you know, it's obviously shifted to nighttime. There are a lot of dark areas where Leon has to pull out his flashlight. And that to me is like, ooh, it feels like classic Resident Evil. It's very cool. I mean,
it's done very well. The dark areas are dark.
Yeah, so and it feels like I'm Leon from Resident Evil 2 walking through that police station with my flashlight going like, what the hell is around the corner?
Well, let me tell you, Leon from a character perspective has changed since RE2. Yeah. RE2, he's like very straight shooting. He's very like, what is going on? I've just arrived at this police station. Shit's gone wild. RE4, man, this guy's just quipping left, right, and center like it's nothing.
He's like, Mr. Cool in this game.
Like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like I think you shared that tweet where you fight those two ladies with the chainsaws. And his bloody quip, I played it yesterday, last evening, and his quip at the end when they arrive in the room, I was just like,
yeah.
What?
I mean,
why would you say that in this situation?
You're forgetting the part where, so for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, you get to, I suppose, like a mini boss fight. You have pick up a key item off a shelf, and then two chainsaws bust through the wall. And instead of just simply stepping back, Leon's like, puts his foot on the wall and does like a backflip away. I'm like, you didn't need to do that, Leon. Like, come on. Like, but this is why I think I have such a fondness for this franchise, because it does straddle this line of, it's a super serious, oh no, like all the games, oh no, there's a virus, it's going to wipe out the city, or oh no, these people have the president's daughter, you're going to go save her. And then 3 seconds later, it's like, backflip, cheesy one-liner.
Yeah,
and like, I really appreciate that they've embraced that. I think in all these remakes,
I do as well.
That at no point, I mean, at no point I feel that they go like, oh no, like we've got to pull back the cheesiness. Like they definitely put it in, but it's still got that B grade, like roll your eyes yet you still smile horror aspects to it, which I really, really appreciate. So
I knew that they were going to lean into it super hard with this remake when the literal title sequence comes right after his classic bingo line, and it's delivered with the most deadpan seriousness ever. He's just like, where's everyone going? Bingo? And it's like title screen, and you're like, what is this game?
It's so good. Yeah, and look, if you have no affinity for Resident Evil as a franchise, I mean, I still think you could come in, play this game, and you'll be very satisfied with the action loop it gives you.
Absolutely.
It's just such a well-rounded game on all fronts, and I think there are changes to the remake which might upset purists, but I'm here for it. I think they've done such a good job. I mean, we know we're not done. Like we still. I'm on chapter 11.
You're nearly done.
I think there's 16 chapters. I'm kind of on that that home stretch.
I think there's 12.
No, it's more than 12. I'm sure.
Are you sure? Okay.
I could be wrong because there's no ways I'm right at the end.
Who knows? Maybe that 12th chapter is just like one chapter that's a third of the game.
That original as well was like, hey, you think you're nearly done? Don't worry, we've got more for you, and it just keeps going.
It is a much longer game than the others, than RE2 and RE3.
I've played, like, if it's an hour a chapter, I've played 10, 11 hours. I'm not done. Even that itself is longer than RE2 and RE3.
I think I'm on chapter...
I think you said 5 or 6.
6 or 7, because I'm at the castle now. I just started. Yeah. I beat Mendez.
Nice. What a
and
good
my
boss
clock
fight.
is sitting at 5 hours.
Nice.
So yeah.
Seems
but
right.
there's lots of side stuff to do in this game as well, and I'm enjoying picking apart things. Like I've gone around, like I see you in the footage now. Even though you're meant to be making a very hasty exfiltration from the village, you're
no, I'm like,
I'm going to go back to the village chief house and look for the dog.
Where that treasure is. Oh, yeah, like that was a very cool. So have you fought that dog?
Yep. That dog killed me numerous times.
It's like a completely optional, hey, there's a dog, you can go kill it, or you don't have to.
I did the same as you, though, here, where I was running around looking for this thing and being like, I don't understand what's happening. And then eventually... Also, did you go upstairs back into the loft now that you have Ashley?
I did,
because there's a treasure there.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it was done intentionally. You hear the dog and then they're like, oh, where's the dog?
I only came back out and he was at the gate, and then I had to run back to the village to fight him.
That's done intentionally then.
The thing that you did that I didn't was clear out the village. I did not do that.
So you fought the dog with all the people there. Oh, no.
Yep.
No wonder you died.
It was painful. Very painful, because that dog moves around real fast.
I had the dog just to myself, and it was not that complicated.
He takes quite a beating. I won't lie.
He does, yeah. No, but I mean,
you get a decent reward for it. So.
I didn't have to contest with other villagers. It was just me and the doggo. So, yeah.
I'm definitely going to be replaying this game because I've already missed some puzzles. Like, there were those hexagonal pieces that you pick up in the village. I picked up 3, and then all of a sudden I saw them appear in the sell tab in the store.
That's the puzzle
so obviously
I'm talking
I
about.
missed the puzzle.
That's
is that the one
you put them into like a a bigger puzzle and you twist them around. You'll either
so
get
I
it in
had all
2
three
moves.
pieces. I just missed where to put them in.
Yeah, you know where it was.
It.
I actually know when you climb into the boat, it's like one of those offshoot areas.
Like one of those little islands.
But like
bummer.
the main island. Yeah, but it's fun.
Bummer. Oh well, I sold them. Got some money.
Made some moolah. Yeah, game's good. I'd highly recommend it to everyone. Like, I don't think.
Oh, hold up! You just did something in your inventory I've never seen before. You just moved a herb over another herb, and they combined.
Oh yeah, you can just slap them on it. You don't have to open up the combine menu. Amazing.
That would have saved time.
Life-changing advice right here. But yeah, again, you don't have to be a survival horror fan or a Resident Evil fan, or you don't have, even if you like, I don't like horror games that's got, this game's tense, like, but it's not, nothing's going to jump out at, well, I say that, there are some things that jump out at you, but it's not a traditional horror experience. Man, it's so good. I love it. And I'll be back next week. Maybe you will too. We'll say we finished it and we haven't changed our minds, or it's the worst game ever. Like, I don't know. I don't see that happening.
It's a great time. Like I think for some bizarre reason it took me a while to like get into it. Maybe because I played the opening of RE4 so many times that I'm like, okay, this is super familiar. Like but like pretty much after the opening encounter in the classic opening where you're surviving in the village until the bell rings, like straight after that the game just does its own thing, and it's like not what you remember. I think also last thing I'll say is it's got another reason why I feel it's still like one of the best games, is that it's very good at just upping the difficulty, like very subtly. It's like, okay, you're used to fighting these normal villagers. Now we're going to have these monsters burst from their heads, which makes them harder to take down. And that every time you think like, oh, this game just can't get harder. I think it's peaked now. It always does, but you always have the right tools, to take whatever you're facing on. So it also feels like it's got because the original has that whole like game director running in the background that subtly changes the difficulty based on things you have and how you're doing. I'm almost certain there's an evolved version of that going on in the background because it feels like it's adjusting to me.
I think definitely from an ammo point of view, the game, like it still has this good balance of like you always have just enough ammo. Like to be fair, you're pretty much a walking army, but you always have enough ammo for each gun that you can swap between them and fire away. And if you have too much, the game's like, I'm not going to give you more. And if you use a lot, the game's like, oh, here you go, like wink, wink. Here's. I mean, have you opened up chests? Have you hit barrels where it's like there's actual multiple things in there? It's like, oh.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to bosses. Like you break a barrel and it's like, here's 4 things that you need.
You're like, oh, okay. Like, thanks, game director.
No, it definitely is like, it's less survival horror than the others. I think very rarely going to be put in a position where you're like, I have no ammo at all. Or at least I have nothing offensive to use. And it sort of flies in the face of, I just finished Dead Space Remake, and that game does something similar where your crates will be obviously dynamic, depending on what you need at the time. I just think that the remake stuck too closely for Dead Space, stuck too closely to the original in that its game director would be skewed towards what's in your inventory, not currently what you're using. And I think that was done as a means to like, you should swap between weapons more often and not just use your plasma cutter. But at the same time, it's like, cool, I'm using my plasma cutter. I'm never getting ammo for it unless I run out, change weapons, use that for a bit. Then I start getting plasma cutter ammo again. And it's like, I found that quite frustrating because I'm like, I've upgraded this fucking thing. I want to use this thing, So yeah, from that perspective, I prefer RE4's approach to things. But Dead Space Remake is far more survival horror, so I get it from that perspective. But yeah, I never feel stressed with ammo. I mean, you have that fight in that house with Louise, and like if you start running out of ammo, he just throws ammo at you. He's like, "Yeah, take it." Nice. Yeah. So yeah,
that's a moment straight from the original. I love it.
It's good. That dude's a fucking asshole. I hate that guy so much.
Yeah, Resident Evil
annoying.
4 Remake. We haven't finished it, but yeah, can confirm it is an absolute banger of a game from what we have seen and played. Yeah.
And I guess if this is coming late, it's because, well, we didn't get review copy. We just bought it at launch. So we're playing it with you.
We are here playing.
We're out here playing. We both have it on PS5. I know there's some issues that Digital Foundry identified with the PS5 with regards to like image clarity, which you can definitely see, but it still looks pretty fucking good. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a monitor that has VRR, thing is smooth as hell.
Nice.
It's great.
Chef's kiss. Archer chef's kissing all over.